So what we're going to go over today, exclusively for the LeanLaw accounting pros, you guys are the first people to get a sneak peek at this, is our new reporting feature. I am actually not going to say any more because Gabe and Rebecca have been thinking about this for a long time and will better address this than I would. So I'm going to leave it to the two of you. Welcome, Gabe and Rebecca.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Elizabeth. Rebecca is the principal product manager who's been working with our several beta users, well, not several, dozens of beta users, to really refine this feature and functionality and whole area of the product to what it is today, and we'll continue to do so. So Rebecca's going to do the majority of sort of sharing what's coming live, how it affects all different types of users, from timekeepers and attorneys to principals and sort of managing partners to operators and billing coordinators. And then, all as LeanLaw accounting pros, you support all of these functions, and especially the billing coordinators and sort of all the finances and accounting that happens through LeanLaw and through QuickBooks. So let me give first just a brief introduction to Lean Insights and to this reporting functionality that we're so excited to launch. And then Rebecca will take lead on demoing a lot of these new dashboards, talking about them, and then we'll talk about what's coming next, what we expect in terms of the evolution here, because as with all great software, it just keeps getting better. So we took a look at LeanLaw and the role that LeanLaw plays in these small to mid-sized law firms. There are some core functions that all of our clients use: time tracking, fixed fees, expenses, and then actually getting bills together and sending invoices. But there's also really understanding what's happening in your firm. Whether that's from the perspective of a paralegal who just joined and wants, they're getting pressure to book a certain number of hours or understand their client mix for the attorneys that they're working under, whether it's that responsible attorney who wants a good insight into what their clients, their list of clients, sometimes hundreds long, what is the current financial status and relationship status of those clients. And then a huge chunk of reporting for billing coordinators and operators who are trying to figure out, who owes us money? How much did we bill this month, this quarter, this year versus last year? How do we compensate our attorneys according to our model? So they've got all these questions. We know how important reporting is to all of our different personas, the thousands and thousands of people who log into LeanLaw every day. So we took a hard look at how can we really enhance the reporting experience for all of the users by really implementing some awesome new cutting edge technology. And so what we're going to show today is an embedded reporting solution that builds on our existing reports. All of our existing reports will remain in place. They'll be called standard reports. And what Rebecca's gonna get to demo today is how we make these. We take the data that's in LeanLaw, pull the data from QuickBooks. Soon we start pulling data from other sources as well, and create not just table-based information and reports, which is still critical and a huge piece of the puzzle, but how do we create graphical displays that are easily filterable, easily understandable? How do we do that quickly so that we can produce new reports when customers have new requests for what they want insight into? And how do we empower customers and their LeanLaw accounting pros and other professional services providers to generate reports and dashboards that are meaningful and relevant and real time? All of this still recognizing that a lot of processing happens in Excel, and therefore always keeping in mind, how do we give users and their professional services providers, their accounting partners, access to the raw data in ways that are easy to export to Excel, but how can we bring more functionality, more data visualization right into LeanLaw in a performant way? So I'm really excited that the LeanLaw team has worked tirelessly over sort of Q2, Q3 to bring what we show you today to life. So over to you with that introduction for Lean Insights. Over to you, Rebecca.
Yeah,
Great. Thanks, Gabe. Yeah, super excited to introduce Lean Insights to this audience. I actually hope this audience finds this as a really powerful new tool in their toolkit when working with the various law firms that they work with. So I'm going to transition over and share our view of that. Are you guys seeing our application?
I am.
Okay, perfect. Then I will
I
move
see it
forward.
too, yeah.
So
Awesome.
as Gabe mentioned, our existing reporting is going to continue to be here, and you'll see what I'm showing right now is our reports tab. And you've still got all of the LeanLaw reporting that you know and love that's available in this, what we're calling our standard reports. So that's if you're looking to access the kind of historical reporting that LeanLaw's provided, that's where you can do it in the standard reports. One of the things that you'll see that's different once we launch this is that there'll be this new left navigation, and you'll see this advanced reports section. And in the advanced reports, you can think of these as sort of new LeanLaw reports designed to give you more flexibility and more configuration and more of those insights, as Gabe mentioned, into what those dashboards look like. So I'm just going to load into this invoice details report here, and we'll talk through some of the features overall of each of the dashboards that exist here. And then we'll go through individually one by one what the different dashboards are, why you might use them, how you might find them useful. So I'm going to give you a quick overview on this particular dashboard, and then we'll jump into why you might use this dashboard in the future ones. So looking at this dashboard, what you can see, all of our dashboards are going to have a date filter of some sort. So you can go in and change the date filter to anything that you find useful. I'm going to keep this one at this year. So we've got some interesting data here to look at. And you can see as we do that, that the report is dynamically updating. So we've got tables below with lots of details in them. And then we've got these charts at the top in this particular one. So on top of the date filter, we also, anytime you see a chart in any of these dashboards, you're going to be able to go in and click on items in those charts, and then you'll get the data below also updating when you do that. So if you really wanted to drill into the details of, in this case, a specific client, or in other examples, you'll be able to drill into a specific timekeeper, a specific invoice, a specific matter. You're able to do that directly from the charts and have the data automatically update there. So that can be really powerful if you want to look at more granular or less granular levels of detail when you're looking at these reports. All right, that's configuration number one. Now, configuration number two that we're very excited about is the ability to build alerts off of any of this data. And what I recommend here, you can build them off of any of the elements in the dashboard. I usually recommend building them off of the tables themselves, because when you do that, then you have access to a broader range of the data. So let's set up a sample alert. I'm going to call this Rebecca's new alert. And then you've got these three different areas. You've got your triggers, your categories, and your filters. So your triggers are going to be, okay, what is the reason I want to see this report? And count of invoice dates, not going to be useful. But let's say anytime the balance is greater than $1,000 for this particular report. So I want to see anytime we've got an invoice that has an outstanding balance of over $1,000. Great. Now, category, I probably don't want to see the category anytime any invoice is over $1,000, but maybe I want to see that by client. So category gives me the ability to group that information, and I'm going to group by client name here. You can add a couple of different groups and add there, but I'm just going to keep it simple for this example. And then the last piece to configure here is you've got your filter. And so if you wanted to go in and say anything with an invoice date in, let's see, we could say the last year, let's say the last quarter. I want to see anything by client that has a sum of greater than $1,000 in the last quarter. That's how I want to filter it. Great, I've got my filter set up, and that will be something so that I'm not looking at things that are 2 years old that we've decided that we're going to write off, for instance. So then we go to next, And this is the piece where you decide how you want to get alerted. So frequency, maybe for something with invoices, every day might be a little much. But let's say I wanted to see it every week, once a week, so I can understand the status of what's happening with collections on those invoices and make sure I'm doing the appropriate follow-up. I can go in and change the frequency. You can also change, how often you're doing it. So there's lots of flexibility there. And then channels, there are a couple of different options. Email is probably the most popular one, but you can select existing ones that you already have, or you can go in and create an email channel. You can make a note of what you want the email to say. So this is the content of the email. And then create a subject. And then you can select who you want to send the email to. You can add multiples, you can BCC or CC, and then you've just set up your alert. So that was a lot of information. What I want to do is show you really quickly what this can look like. This is just a sample email, and I know this might be a little bit small, but this is an example of an alert that I set up with users with fewer than 30 hours logged in the last week. And so I can see my categories. I'm seeing Fred, Amos, and Rebecca all showing that their billed hours are under 30. And we'll talk a little bit more when we get to the firm time analysis report about how you might want to do that using that report. But this is just an example of what an alert might look like when you do that.
This is awesome, Rebecca, and so glad you went into detail with sort of how to set up alerts. For LeanLaw accounting pros, for our LAPs, some of this can be collaboration with some of it will be alerts that you want to set up for yourself to understand when your different LeanLaw firms have certain conditions, a certain amount of balance outstanding, a certain amount of WIP billed or collected, a certain amount of attorneys who haven't entered time. Well, that last one's a good example of. So the point I'm trying to make is, we anticipate this being useful for LeanLaw accounting pros to sort of set alerts for yourself to engage your LeanLaw firms right when you should. Get that alert so that you can be their real partner when they have to take action or should be aware of something going on in their business. We also think that a lot of LeanLaw firms really trust their LeanLaw accounting pros or partners to advise them and sort of show new features and functionality. And so I think that alerts are a really powerful way of having those billing coordinators, those operators in firms, be able to take advantage of LeanLaw's Lean Insights in new and interesting ways. So I think the specific example Rebecca's showing around making sure that all attorneys, that there's an alert set up if attorneys don't hit a certain number of hours in a given week, month, billing period, whatever it is, that's a great value add that you can suggest to billing coordinators, operators, and it's really going to make them happy to be your partner in this, and also really on top of getting the data into the system that ultimately will end up on invoices and in the bank account.
Yeah. And I think that's a really great point of, you may want to recommend, if a particular firm you're working with is slow to collect, you may want to recommend, hey, maybe you should monitor this. You should have an alert that's happening, and let me show you how to set this alert up. You may want to do that more frequently until you kind of resolve and get to an improved steady state on those collections, for instance. So that really gives you levers to be a really great advisor in how to leverage this and how to help those firms be more efficient. All right. Now I'm going to pivot a little bit away from alerting and just show a couple more features that exist within a dashboard before we jump into the specifics. So you saw me go to set an alert from this table. The other things you can do, as Gabe mentioned early on, we know that there are Excel use cases, so you still have the ability to download into CSV or Excel. You can also take a snapshot of the elements of the table. Now, if you're taking a snapshot, you won't be able to see all of the details of the full table. So that's just something to caveat and give you a little bit of a warning about. But if you wanted to just show a sample of something, that might be a reason that you would use a screenshot.
And I would say the save as PNG or save as a screenshot is perhaps, it can be useful to show the data that is in a table, even if you can't, in a screenshot you can't scroll through it, which is what Rebecca's saying. But we see the use case on that being more, even more for the graphical displays. So being able to take a snapshot of your outstanding balances by age of invoice and message it, email it, text it, Slack it to relevant partners. To relevant parties, either within a certain firm or even within your accounting firm, with sort of a need to know basis. So that's a little bit on that PNG screenshot use case.
Yeah, perfect. All right, now I'm going to jump into what the different reports are, and I'm going to go through these pretty quickly, but happy to take questions on these when we get to the Q&A section, and also follow-ups if folks have additional questions there. So we've been looking at firm invoice details. So now let me actually tell you why you might want to use the firm invoice details report. So this really helps when you think about your billing administrators and the folks who are thinking about the regular billing cycle. This report is designed to just give them an overview of the state of those invoices. So you've got your outstanding balances by age. This is kind of the idea to give you a little bit of aging information there. And then also your top 10 clients with outstanding balances. This is designed to highlight to you, hey, maybe I need to follow up with Redfish Lake Inc. about why they haven't paid some of their outstanding balances. So that just gives you kind of a quick view and a way to summarize the information and maybe take some action from there. Then you've got a distribution. You've got several different tables here. You can see things that have been fully unpaid so far from an invoicing standpoint. You can see invoices that have been partially paid. You can see completed payments, and then you've got at the bottom just all of the invoice data collectively. And so this is designed to give you different slices of the data based on what you're trying to understand with the health of your firm invoicing system. So great. Now I'm going to jump to firm payment trends. And these, when you think about firm payment trends, this is designed, we talked a little bit about collections earlier. This is really designed to give you a high level view of what's happening with your collections. And so the firm may want to understand, are we getting paid regularly? Do we have kind of spiky cash flows? Here I'd say absolutely yes. We've got a major spike in July and pretty low quantities. So when you're thinking about your cash flow and you're paying your staff on a regular basis, you really want to know, when are you collecting? You also might want to know, maybe this should be a little bit more even and not have this massive spike in July. How do we even that out? So there are lots of different considerations and ways that you could use this information. And then it gives you total amount paid, and then who has paid what amount, which client has paid what amount. And then as you'll see a pattern here where we've got a table of underlying data always at the bottom, whether you want to use it for alerting purposes or just want to export or want to drill into the details, you can see that here.
Yeah, this is a really great way for our LAPs to engage with their firms, to really help them dial in collections. It's one thing to invoice properly, correctly, consistently. It's another thing to collect properly, consistently, and in short order. So we've got a lot of what we'll focus on in Q3, the rest of Q3, Q4, and even beyond is really on collections. It's really on, once our firms using LeanLaw send out invoices, what can we do to show them the status of the emails that they're sending, set up reminders, and have real visibility, not just the invoice went out, great, but really what is the cadence? Being able to visualize very quickly using a report like this, for each client, what is the average days to collected for when an invoice is sent out, and trigger alerts when, for example, you're seeing more days than average for a specific client, and then suggestions for how to decrease that time on a client by client basis. So I wanted to use this segue to kind of talk about some of our future product priorities, but it's all rooted in really helping firms understand what's going on in their firm and how can they improve it? What can they do to actually move the needle? And our LAPs the LAP community is exactly who can deliver that message using these tools better than we can.
Yeah, great. All right, now we're gonna go to the firm time analysis report. And this is a pain point that we hear from our operators on a regular basis, where they're having to track down users consistently to understand and get users to put their time into the system. Because really, if our users aren't capturing their time, then they're not getting paid for that time. And that becomes really important overall for the health of a business. So here at firm time analysis, and I showed you the example of my alert earlier. The firm time analysis is really designed to give you a firm-wide view of how you're doing with your time entries and your productivity overall. So you can see the number of clients, the number of matters, and the based on the rates, what the value of the build time is. Then you can see who are your top billing users based on hours. And similarly, who are your top billing clients? And then you can see all of the different time entries that exist here. And this is where alerting can be really powerful and really advising firms on setting up alerts. If they're struggling with making sure everybody's entering their time, this report is going to be very helpful for them and very helpful to set up an alert. And so you can see I've got an alert already set here. And that's that email that you saw where I'm looking every week for users who have entered less than 30 hours of time. And so you can configure that in a bunch of different ways, and you could send it to a particular user and saying, hey, I've noticed you haven't entered your time for this past week. Please enter your time. There are lots of different ways that's a very polite way to do it. You might want to be a little more aggressive if people are doing that consistently. But that can be really powerful and a time saver. Also something where you're not waiting until the end of the month to go track somebody down, make sure they're entering their time. But that can happen a lot more in the moment and more consistently by using these alerts and using this report. So super excited about the power that this enables for firms here, and how you can be a really good partner in advising the use here. All right, next we're going to jump into matter details. And so matter details, actually, this is a dashboard that we built based on some of our beta user feedback, where we were hearing that it was really hard to get all of the information about a particular matter, so that you could do things like court filings. And so this report really was born out of that idea. And so really what it is a way to see all of the time, all of the expenses, and all of the fixed fees. And then you can go in and search by a particular matter. So let's see, let's pull up my favorite matter here. You can see I'm using a different type of filter here. But now I can go in and I can just export all of the details for this one particular matter for time, and then you'd export it as well for expenses and for fixed fees. This one doesn't have any fixed fees associated with it, but that can be really powerful. That can be a huge time saver, and it can help bring down manual work. So if you're seeing a scenario where you've got billing administrator, maybe it's a paralegal, but somebody who's struggling to put all of this information together and build a bunch of different reports kind of cobbled together, this is something that they can use. It's all in one place, and they can go and get that information really quickly. So really excited to simplify some workflows that users have based on our matter details report. All right, now I'm going to jump to our monthly billing report. This is another report that actually came out of, and you'll see it's got similar information from matter details, but this came out of one of our operators' workflows where they were really trying to get an overview of all of the information that had happened in a particular time period that they build on. And so this also gives us the way, and lots of different ways to slice this data, where you can pick a time period, you can filter by a client. So let's, did that did that in the wrong order here. But you can filter by a client, you could filter by a matter, you could filter by an invoice, lots of different ways that you can slice and dice this. But then you can get access to the details of all of the items that went into that this client, for instance, had in the previous month in this case, but whatever time period you're selecting. So this is about being able to get the details at a full view in a time period. And that's really where the beta user feedback kicked in with us on that one. All right, now we're going to shift to my time analysis, and this is Gabe's favorite. So I'm going to let Gabe give you a little bit of an overview, and I'll do my best to drive along with him when we talk about this one.
It is indeed my favorite, and I'll share why. I use LeanLaw to track my time. So just I'm not an attorney. I'm a product. I work in product here at LeanLaw, but we still use our own product. It helps us to understand how seamless it is and needs to be and can be for individual timekeepers. And then we also create fake bills and invoice. When I'm creating my own time in LeanLaw, I really want to be able to understand trends over time. Why did it looks really fishy to me when on Monday I build my normal 8-9 hours, and then Tuesday's 3 hours, and then Wednesday's back up to 8 or 9 hours. Seeing that in the time entries page right now is challenging. You have to know what you're looking for, and then you have to read through a table. Being able to visualize very quickly how your week or how your month looked in terms of when you build time, we believe is going to lead to a lot more billable time being appropriately captured by attorneys. And I'm certainly seeing that in my own use of our own product. So that's why I'm so excited about this report or dashboard in particular for the individual attorneys that work at the firms that you as LAPs support. And so this isn't the most relevant report for LAPs, not the most relevant report always for firm operators, but because we serve a lot of mid-sized law firms, we have thousands and thousands of attorneys who come on here primarily to track time. So that's why that's my excitement for what this report can do for a lot of our users, not just the power users who are operators, billing coordinators, and accounting pros. What you see here is on the top left, my time entries. So within your time period, right now, Rebecca has set it to the last 30 days, so approximately the last month. I've submitted 100 time entries. Those time entries represent 121.3 hours across 7 distinct matters. So it just gives you a really, really quick way to visualize sort of the extent of time that and the number of matters you've been working on. The next is that column chart or column chart where you can see day by day how many hours you've billed or work in progress if you haven't actually put them on an invoice yet. And then down below, as Rebecca mentioned, always having a table of the underlying data helps when you want to go to set alerts on your own time, for example. So that's the time entries page. That's the my time analysis. And I will mention, there's a lot of use cases where the best place for this type of data and these types of reports is right in the reports section, but we're always thinking about where else can we surface this data in interesting and useful ways within the product. So that's one area among many that we would love your feedback on, either in this webinar or via email or any other way you want to get in touch with us after.
Yeah, great. And I think we've already had one of our beta users in particular. This is also his favorite, and he has said that this has actually helped him capture more of his time and identify gaps. So really, he's seeing business impact directly from having access to this report and being able to use it on a consistent basis. So. All right, now we're going to go to my favorite. My favorite report is on the outstanding invoices side. And the reason that I find this outstanding invoices report useful is that it gives me a quick snapshot of what I'm due that I need to follow up about. And so it gives me, you have your invoice amount, your outstanding balances, and it gives me a really easy sense of How much of what I've invoiced have I collected on? You know, there's a lot outstanding from what I've invoiced on in the last 90 days. And so that should be something that's worrying to me from a business perspective. And I could really see working with the firms that you work with as a way to use this as a quick way to understand the health of their invoicing process and your collections process. So there, you know, this is pretty standard and simple. You've got your top 10 clients, you've got your invoicing data, but really the summarized information I think is key in this report. So that is an overview of our advanced reports section. And so that we're looking to have that come out in, we think it's going to be early Q4 when that's going to become available. Very excited about releasing that functionality. And what I'd like to do now is just take a couple of minutes to show you what's coming next from there, and give you a sense of what that looks like before we jump into questions. So you can see we've done standard reports, we've talked about advanced reports, now I'm going to talk about my custom reports. And this, we really see our LAPs as becoming really power users in this area to help firms get the most out of their available data. So what this is the ability to use LeanLaw data to build your own reports. So I'm not going to get into all of the details about how the report builder works, but I'm going to kick this off and just show you quickly how I can go ahead and do this. So I'm going to say Rebecca's dashboard. And then you can select lots of different items here. So I'm going to start with the table because I find that helpful. And then let's throw a bar graph in there. And let's throw a filter in there. There are lots of different ways that you can build and add elements to any of these reports. I'm just giving you a quick highlight of what that looks like. And then you can see here, we've got these available data sets here. And so I can just jump into any one of these data sets and start pulling information in, and that information will populate based on the data. Let's see, let's do user full name, let's do client. I'm not going to build anything that's particularly insightful here, but just to give you a sense of the ease of use, if I can actually drag something with my mouse here, how quickly I can go about building different elements that exist here. And let's see, let's throw matter name and let's do hours. There we go. So you can see I'm kind of adding this information as we go. I can add a title of, you know, matter and hours. And then I can go in, I can move things around. I can change what they look like. I can pull different elements into, so lots of styling abilities here, depending on who your audience is for a report. You know, you might have some users that you want to really spend a lot of time making things look really nice and pretty. That might be, you know, your principals, folks that are going to care a lot about the visualization. If you're building a report that's just for yourself, you may or may not care about that. And so you may take some shortcuts there, but there's flexibility around how much you can invest in the design of the dashboard itself. So that's just a quick view of how you can kind of drag and drop data and drag and drop different elements to build your own dashboard. And just to give you a sense of some of the dashboards that I've created, here I've got a collections by responsible attorney dashboard built that just gives me information that I'm looking to see. So I wanted to know by responsible, you know, what is outstanding and what's been invoiced and what's been paid. So if I wanted summary information about that, that's something that I specifically wanted to be able to see. So there's lots of flexibility here. Really excited about giving LAPs the ability to build reports for their clients. And so what we've also created is the ability to share these dashboards. And so you can go in and select the users that exist and who you want to share them with. I'm going to be nice and share this with Gabe. And I've got a description of what the report is. And then I can go in and share, and you won't see it on my end because I shared it to Gabe. But what that would then do is populate in shared reports, and you'd see right now, nobody's shared anything with me, but
Oh, poor,
I'm
poor
doing all the
Rebecca,
sharing.
never on the receiving end.
I'm the one doing all the sharing here. But you would see this report show up in shared, and other users would then be able to access any reports that you built and you wanted them to see. So that can be really powerful if you've got users who they're not going to take the time to go in and build information, and they're always coming to you and asking you for the same information. You can just make it available to them, and make it easy for them to see.
And we also see, especially for those of us who use Excel sort of as the backbone of our data practice, answering questions, et cetera. We throughout the product, you can download information to Excel. Here with custom reports, you can pre-format so that when you download it, it's already in the columns that you want specifically for whatever you're trying to do. And so instead of LeanLaw prescribing what columns are included, what type of data, which columns after which, and then you taking it into Excel and having to reformat it based on your needs, you can create one custom report and then download whenever you want, every month, every week, every quarter, every year. You can download exactly what you want in the pre-formatted way. So we see that as one of the base use cases for my custom reports, even before you get to creating visual dashboards for different, managing partners and for principals and operators and yourself and sharing them. There are a lot of use cases for this sort of the customization of reports and dashboards.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that will be, that will be in beta. That is in beta still. Obviously, advanced reports is coming out soon, out of beta and into the mainstream product. My custom reports is in beta for the time being. We're going to continue collecting feedback, figuring, it's a little bit more of an advanced feature, and therefore custom reports is. And so it requires us to really be good at knowing who's really going to use it and training them in ways that sort of have them become proficient at it very quickly and provide a ton of value to either their firm or, in the case of LAPs, the firms they work with. So that'll remain in beta, and we're open to expanding the beta to include more folks. I think we've already got, I don't know, a dozen or more folks
So are you
using
saying,
this
Gabe,
regularly.
that if somebody wants to participate, they should connect with you?
Yeah,
Yes.
thanks for being explicit on that, Elizabeth. Yeah,
So
you can.
what email should they write to?
Product@myleanlaw.com, and we've got it at the end for the final slide so people can also see it visually.
Right. That sounds great. I mean, it sounds like, and will you also be offering to create custom dashboards for people, as well as teaching LAPs how to create a custom dashboard?
During the beta period, we are working closely with folks in the beta.
Mm-hmm.
Beyond the beta period, our focus is really empowering both firm operators themselves in certain cases, but also the great professional services providers that support the firms and the firm operations. So LAPs are a great example of who can folks who can really learn this tool and then apply it to bring the value that this unlocks to the different firms that they work with. And we've been approached by other professional services providers who see the value in this tool when we show it to them. So short answer is, during the beta period, most anything flies, and our real goal is to learn from and with our users who want to lean in and sort of experiment with this, and build interesting features and functionalities and reports out of this. But in the long term, we do not anticipate. We're going to train others to build the reports that they want, because every firm is different, And so for things that work for all of our firms, or a vast majority of them, we'll create advanced reports, as we've already done. And Rebecca's done a great job. A lot of those reports, as she said, are not our invention or our thought of what's important to our firms or even LAPs. It's really directly from the beta period for advanced reports, which has been taking place over the past few months.
If a LeanLaw Accounting Pro is an advanced user, a seasoned user, is this something that's hard to learn, Rebecca? Is this straightforward? Is it persnickety? How would you describe it?
That's a great question. So what I'd say is, I like to use the analogy. I am not a snowboarder, but I like to use the snowboarding analogy because I hear there's a kind of steep, quick learning curve where it's when you first start, it's a little, you got to learn some of the basics, and that can take a little bit. Mostly the thing is learning about what the data is, because we've given you access. If I jump back in here, we've given you access to a lot of LeanLaw's data, and there's a lot of different data points that are available based on what you might want to use. So learning that data can be a little bit tricky, but once you've got a handle on the data and you've understood some of the basics of setting up a dashboard, then it becomes really easy, really powerful, and really quick to do. So that's why I'd say kind of there's an initial learning period. We're working on creating more materials also to help with that, because we know that that's going to be a little bit tricky when first starting. So the things that we're working on is getting a data dictionary, so you can look up and understand, okay, what is this client display name and what does it mean? And so that you can kind of work through that and learn that information. And then also some of the training about the different things you can do with the dashboard building itself to make that easier. Once you get past that learning curve, which I think if you're playing with it for a couple of hours, you start to move through that pretty quickly. Then it becomes really easy to build.
Let me ask you this. Will you create like a Spotify list of reports? Like, this is my playlist, if you will, of reports that maybe the LAPs could share either in the app or in the Mighty Networks where they all have their online group?
That's a really great idea. So where we've started, and love that idea, because I think that that's something that we should look at, how we're allowed to enable that. What we've started with is any of our advanced reports, because it can be a little bit hard to start with a blank slate when you're creating something. You can copy any of our existing advanced reports into the My Custom Reports section, and you can just use that as a template, as a starting point. So that can help you at least get started from that perspective.
We're almost out of time. Is there anything other than product@myleanlaw.com that you want them to know if they want to participate in the beta of this product launch?
Well, the one other thing I was going to say of what's coming next, the one other thing that we're doing is we're working on getting our compensation data into the data sets available. You'll see that wasn't something that we highlighted. We've heard that need. We know that can be really powerful as a data set. And so we're looking forward to doing more of that in Q4 as well. Terrific. So, but
the last thing I'd say is, please don't just email us if you want to be part of the beta. Email us with any feedback that you have. After seeing this, we're eager to hear from you all. So additional questions or feedback, we're eager to hear. Does this resonate? Which reports in general do you think you'll use frequently? What do you wish this had? As Rebecca said, compensation is on its way, but there's other features, functionality, data sets that we sort of have on our list and we want your help to prioritize what's most useful to you and the firms you work with. So please don't hesitate to reach out. Rebecca, myself, monitor that inbox hourly, daily, and we would love to hear from you.
Our clients and our LeanLaw accounting pros really do have a huge influence on how we develop this software. We're small enough still that we can hear you personally at the top part of our company. So let us know.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right.
Absolutely. We want to hear from you.
Thanks everyone for coming.
The good, the bad, and the ugly. Thanks for joining us. We're really excited to get to show you a preview of this new reporting capabilities.